Vele from programtom.com/dev here, and in this episode I'm gonna point out a blog post that is a consequence of a question that I've received, and it is what items you will integrate if you start a new Spring Boot project. And basically you have the power to go to start.spring.io, and here you could set up the building, the language, the versioning, metadata, and here you could set up all dependencies you want. And this is coming from Spring, so it will be with the latest and greatest things. But I've also have created my personal project, app builder, it's and code generator that also generates some of the items written here. So first thing are dependencies that you need to set up in your project, and here are the most popular: web, data, JPA, security, and test. And all of these dependencies are included in Maven or Gradle project management. So the newer boy in the neighborhood is Gradle, but I am still using Maven, so it's perfectly okay to use any of them. So they manage dependencies and warn you about deprecating libraries and security issues on plugin on libraries, so you know when to update your versions of libraries. And these starters are actually a graph of dependencies. A dependency here has multiple sub dependencies with other types of dependencies, so when they bump up a version, they actually increase the dependencies. So the Spring developers invest a lot of time getting all of these different versions and libraries working together, so you will not have some sneaky and not recognizable error or what is the issue. So it's highly recommended to use Spring Boot dependencies, so any of the sub dependencies will be well tested and verified by the Spring Boot developers. And basically, any serious app has a database, and database has a driver and a pool, and most connection pools are handled out of the box by convention over configuration, but you could also tune up according to your application needs and requirements. And you could pick a way that the application configuration is done in Spring Boot application.properties or YAML. And here I will add also or is it some here below? No, I'll add here also Docker files and Docker compose files and any other type of DevOps items. So I'll add them. So after you have basic configurations that are custom, it is a must to have environments different environments and also different settings for each environment. So yeah. So basically, there are common 4 environments: dev, test, client, acceptance, and production. And when configuring a new project, it is essential to have different uh, configuration file for each one of them, so no changes for dev could get applied without the developer wanting to test SIT or production. So it is essential to have different settings for each environment. And after this, it's essential to have logging. So you'll know when something is bad, and if you want to troubleshoot whatever, you must have appropriate logging. For example, there are settings for Hibernate to log the SQL queries, so you could know how much queries and what types of queries have been executed onto the database. And this comes to the database access and the ORM. So basically, the most modern applications use some type of relational mapping, and this library puts annotations on entity classes that describes how data is mapped from the database to an entity. And there is a repository layer about how information is grabbed, and the JPA is the library, the like Hibernate or the implementation of JPA, how things are mapped and cached on a second level object cache that is above the database. So yeah, this comes out of the box with the modern database libraries like this one. And basically, for any serious app, you will need security, and Spring Security gives several tools like the bcrypt library for hashing password, for securely hashing password, and different utilities like request filters, integrations with authentication and authorization of request, and also different libraries for JWT token, JSON Web Token, issuing and verification. So this is the layer of authentication and authorization that is essential for any app that is that requires login or any type of user-owned information. So API documentation, it is any software is developed, improved, supported, and handled by other developers besides the one that is coding. And even the one that is coding should include documentation. And because after vacation, there is saying when I wrote this software, only I and God knows what this software does, and after the vacation, only God knows what the software does. So having a documentation is important. And besides these two, there should be also two points, and these points are just add them. So about documentation, it is common to have a README file that is visualized as a web page by Git hosting platforms, and this README file should and could contain how-tos, how to set up the project, how to get it started, some instructions and examples on, for example, how to add a new feature and where things needs to be touched. And it is intended for other software developers. And it is also common to have diagrams of the software logic and diagram of the code architecture. And besides these high-level instructions, also it could be also there could be a Swagger or Open API documentation, and these types of documentations are often generated by code analyzing tools or by and another point here is also a Java doc, especially if the code is a library. So after having some UI, some REST endpoint, having security, JPA, database integration configuration, setup for different environments, logging, security, database operations, documentation, things get elevated to more beyond the logic level, but to the quality of the application. For a high quality application, the code should have high level of code coverage done by tests, unit tests, integration tests, and tests on the business logic. So I'll add here some points. So it is a common to have database integration tests and some utility, some tool that will enforce code coverage on the code before the code is getting pushed to the Git repository, as Git's the most often used. And some side points. It is often included in a project development tools that generate boilerplate code and introduce convenient tools for replacing the code in the Java virtual machine while developing. So with Spring Boot, you could hit Control and F9 and it will reload the app with minimal replacement of code in the Java virtual machine. And similar tools are also present in GraalVM and in some other virtual machines, and basically this speeds up the development and fine-tuning the code without needing to reload all the database connections and settings and restarting all the HTTP server. And yeah, these are items that will speed up software development. I've already talked about dependency management, and basically Git is the king of the code management nowadays. There are several code storing locations, GitLab, GitHub, but you could also host your own Git repository, as it is peer-to-peer, and it is common to have Git hooks that will call Jenkins job or some GitHub actions or continuous integrations on GitLab. So basically the Git repository allows you to trigger some script that will call a consequence list of actions, and it could do execute the tests, execute any code analysis. This is another point for before pushing the code to the I'll add it here. It is code analysis and requirements on the code for some stinky code. So CI/CD setup should enforce getting high code coverage and to have minimal amount of code analyzer errors, and the ultimate requirement for any new project when you get started is to have Spring Cloud and to have some cloud specific integrations that are required for microservices. So all these components I am integrating incrementally in my app builder within app generator, and I'll edit this blog post with some of the tools that I've created with some links. But basically, if you don't use any of my tools, these are just a list of items that are required and a must for any new project.